Hi, my name is Michael Sullivant, and I've been asked to share about how Jesus Christ has changed my life. So I have to begin when I was 6 years old. I had my first encounter with God, only I didn't realize it was an encounter with God until I looked back on it. But I looked up into the sky one night. It was a summer night, and I looked up into the stars, and I suddenly was aware of that instinctive knowledge of the presence of God in the world and in the universe. And so looking into the stars just kind of blew my mind, and I knew that there was somebody bigger, smarter, and more powerful than I was. But I thought you had to die in order to meet God. No one had ever told me that you could meet God before you died. So I lived my life. I had a great childhood. In my teenage years, I started to become more troubled. And about the time I was 16, I had morphed into what I call a pseudo-intellectual hippie jock. So it was a very strange combination of personas that I was trying to put on to find myself, and I really was quite lost. And so when I was 16 years old, I attended a church that my older brother had challenged me to go to, and I decided to go to prove to him that I couldn't be as easily manipulated by religious people as he had been. But anyway, I had another encounter with God when I was 16, and I heard a voice speak to me about my need for God, and it kind of scared me, and I wasn't ready to surrender myself to anyone else. I wanted to rule my own life, thank you very much. And so I kind of got scared by that experience and ran away from the Lord for about 2 years. And then when I was 18, I had a very powerful encounter with Christ. So for about a week, or maybe a little bit more, I couldn't get off of my mind the sense that God was wanting me to give my heart to Him and to give my all to Him and surrender, my future, the big decisions of my life, what my life would be like, what I would do, and just all those major decisions of life. He was asking me to surrender my will to His will. And I was kind of braced for a very boring existence if I did such a thing, but I was so miserable at that point on the inside that I was ready to give my life to the Lord. And so the Holy Spirit was drawing me to Christ, and I had heard the gospel about Jesus being the one who connects us to the Creator, the Father. And so I prayed this very simple prayer because I didn't know how to pray. I said, "I give up, you got me." And literally, the moment I prayed that prayer, I realized I was praying from a part of me that I didn't even know was there. It was so deep and so authentic. And so I said that prayer, and I encountered Christ. I had spiritual visions. I had two visions that overtook me in my mind's eye, almost like a night dream that was very vivid, only I wasn't asleep. And I saw these pictures that perfectly described my condition, and I felt the presence of the Lord and the presence of the Holy Spirit. And my experience was that it seemed like Jesus was actually walking up to me and then getting into my personal space, and then He didn't stop. It was as though He walked right into me. And I remember thinking, I heard people say, "Accept Jesus into your heart." And I thought to myself, oh, I thought it was a metaphor. But suddenly I was experiencing this infusion of this new life, a life from above. And I was filled with joy. I was filled with the kind of peace that people always talk about, that they experience when they meet the Lord. I didn't know that you could meet the Lord like this. And so I was 18 years old, and on my way to university, I was outdoors, and I looked up into the sky, and when I prayed that prayer, so it just transformed me. And when I talk about this experience, I relive it every time, and it just melts my heart, and I can't get away from this encounter that I had, and it radically changed the course of my life and the quality of my life. And by God's mercy, I've had many other experiences with the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit and God's people through the years. So Jesus changed the life of this young pseudo-intellectual hippie jock who was very lost and suddenly was found and surprised by the grace of God, because I didn't understand grace. I thought I had to strive and earn some kind of a relationship with God or some kind of a purpose, and it just came and landed in my lap, and so I'm now in my 60s, and I still love the Lord and walk with Him. So that's my story.